Hi, everyone. Welcome to your virtual AC Day 1, Top 5 Tips to Get Job Ready. We are so thrilled to have you here, and we're so excited to kick off the winter semester with you. Before we get started, we just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items. So this event includes live closed captions in English. Captions are available directly in the Zoom toolbar by clicking the CC icon. Along the bottom of the screen, you will also find a chat button. Please feel free to use this feature to introduce yourself and let us know what program you're in. And if you have any questions for any of the event facilitators, please type them into the Q&A tab along the bottom of the screen, and we will take questions at the end of the presentation. Just wanted to let you know as well that this session is going to be recorded and will be added to the Algonquin College orientation website by the end of the week. So before we get started, we are actually joined by a special member of Algonquin College's executive team, Algonquin College's Senior Vice President Academic, Dr. Chris Jensen, who would like to share a few words of welcome.
Well, and good morning, everyone. This is actually truly one of my favorite days of the year. I love AC Day 1. The excitement, the anticipation, frankly, the little bit of nerves, the butterflies going. It's just an incredible mix on an incredible day. You have chosen to come to Algonquin College. And I am starting my 10th year at the college now, which both seem like a very long time and a blink of the eye all at the same time. This is an incredible institution full of amazing people that are beyond dedicated. They are absolutely passionate about helping you succeed. And that's really in part what today's session is going to be about, learning to help you succeed. The college's mission to transform hopes and dreams into lifelong success is not something we take lightly. And it really has a twofold meaning. It means that while you are here at the college, we are going to be doing everything humanly possible to help you succeed in your studies here and prepare for whatever comes next after Algonquin College. But that whole lifelong success thing also means that we are helping to prepare you for an incredibly meaningful career. In other words, the jobs that exist now and the jobs that are going to exist 5, 10 years from now. And as the world changes and you discover that the world changed and you need to change your skill set, we're going to be here again, waiting to help you change that skill set and get ready to move forward. So we serve not only the students that are here now, helping them prepare for the jobs that are going to be available right when they graduate, but we also drive the economy forward by ensuring that businesses and employers around the province and around the world have the incredibly skilled people that they need to succeed. So as we've designed our curriculum and as we've designed our programs, we're doing that in a way that's going to meet the needs of the employers as well. And so today's session is really talking about that bridge, that time between here at the college and getting employed later in an incredible job. So really happy to have this session to help kick off your studies here at the college. Listen carefully, these folks know what they're talking about. They've got great experience and really do care deeply about helping you succeed. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the program.
Okay, so let's jump right into our presentation topic today. So like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about the top 5 tips to help you get job ready. So throughout the presentation today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Employment Support Center and what kind of services and resources are available to you as an Algonquin College student. We're also going to talk about what it means to be job ready and talk about the steps that are needed to get there. And then finally, we're going to have an open question answer period if there's anything we didn't cover or if you have any questions. So my name is Jessica Andrews. I am one of the employment officers at the Employment Support Center. And I'm joined today with my coworker, Lindsay Bortot. For myself, I've been with the college now for over 4 years and working both in employment and co-op. I'm going to stop that. It's really distracting. And I've previously worked within both finance and child welfare. So I have a background working and advising others, helping others succeed and reach their goals. And I'm hoping to bring all that experience together to help you all here today with your career journeys.
My name is Lindsay. I am the other employment officer with the Employment Support Center, and Jess and I work closely together to support students and grads, which we'll talk to you a little bit more in a moment about. In terms of my background, I've been working with employment for over 10 years, 4 years with the college, and then about 6 years within the community. And I have a background in counseling and career development. So there's nothing that's more important to me than supporting students through such a pivotal, important transition period in their life. And that just happens to be, the transition from school to work. So today we want to give you some practical resources and tools and tips to get you started on this journey. And we want you to be aware that we're here for you during that period of time. And we are a support that you can access, whether it be tomorrow or whether it be 3 months from now or at the end of your program. So we're going to try a little activity using a tool called Padlet. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you should be able to scan the QR code. And if you're watching this via Zoom today, right here, I'm going to pop a link in the chat, or you can use the QR code. So I'll give you a second and hopefully that will populate for you. And then I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and give us your patience because this is the first time that we're doing this today. Got to try all the things out, all the new things that we can. All right, so hopefully you are seeing this. And what we want you to do is just introduce yourself using this platform. All you have to do is there's a plus button in the bottom right-hand corner where you can start to type something, and then you can choose a GIF that represents you. You'll see myself and Jess already put one in there. And then once people start doing that, we'll be able to see all of you. And we can see some of you starting to type. Great. Hi, Jonah. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Christina. Jagritty. Hi, Ken. I like Ken's GIF. He's deeply moved by us. We haven't even presented yet, but he's deeply moved. I love it. Great. We've got an office party going. I love that one. Jonah says he's a computer systems tech, so he's our nerdy tech advisor. Perfect. We always need more of those. Awesome. Love it. Love it, Steve. Too cute. Chris has got his cats hanging out there, looking out the window. Perfect. Oh, did you catch that? Perfect.
Well done. Well done.
Great. Awesome. Perfect. Okay. So give it a second or so, see if anybody wants to add anything in, and then we'll get back to the presentation. Just thought that might be a fun way to introduce ourselves this morning. Perfect. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for participating in that. That was fun. And I'll hand it back over to Jess.
Okay, so next we're going to move on to the services and resources that are available at the Employment Support Center. So first of all, where can you access employment support? It's through us, and we provide both in-person, virtual right now, support to students and graduates to help prepare them for their careers. So typically, if we were on campus, we would be located in the Student Commons building on the 3rd floor, right above the Starbucks. But currently, all of our support is offered through Zoom, and you can book appointments with us Monday to Friday from 8:30 till 4:45. In terms of services, we offer a number of different services to our students. We do targeted resume and cover letter reviews. So if you have a specific position that you would like help targeting to, we do mock interviews so we can practice questions with you to help prepare you for an interview. We talk about job search, so going over different strategies to help you find opportunities. We also review labor market information about the different trends or outlooks for your particular program or area of interest. We talk about LinkedIn profiles, so how to build a LinkedIn and then also how to use it effectively in your job search. And then we also host a number of events and workshops throughout the year to help prepare you for your career and to help connect you with employers. We also have a number of virtual tools and resources that you can access. The first one is Hire AC, which is our student and grad specific job board where employers will specifically come to us to post positions for our students and grads. So if you're looking for a job, that's the first place I would suggest going. We also have the AC Career Platform, which is a website with different modules, information, videos on resumes, cover letters, job search, and interview skills. So if you can't meet with us during the day, this is available to you 24/7. And then finally, we have Interview Stream, which is a really cool video-based tool where you can actually record yourself answering interview questions. So there's, I think, over 8,000 interview questions to go through, and you can actually see what you look like, how you deliver your answers, what your body language looks like, and assess yourself.
Now that you know that all about the services and resources and tools that you have access to through the Employment Support Center, we're going to get into the presentation today, which is the top 5 tips to getting job ready. So we recognize that as a student, you've got a lot on your plate. You're probably thinking about getting a job too. So that's just one more thing that you have to think about. The good news is today we're going to share 5 tips that we hope will be practical and things that you can apply to get you started on that journey today. So tip number 1 is all about setting a realistic goal. It sounds simple, but of course it's necessary, and it's the first step to reaching that success and finding that job satisfaction, beginning with a little bit of a process of what we call self-discovery. So just in the chat, we're curious to know, are you looking for a part-time job? If so, just put your response in there. Just say yes or no. Lots of yeses. Great. So we definitely have some people looking for part-time jobs. That's great. Here is the first step. So how do I do this? First things first, assess your skills, your interests, and your values. So what does that look like? Ask yourself questions like, what do you enjoy doing? What are you looking for in a work environment? And what skills have you learned that will help you perform in your future job? So have you had other jobs in the past where you've developed what we call soft or transferable skills that can be used in future jobs? Are you looking for a work environment where you're working independently, or where you're looking to work with a group of people? Do you know what you enjoy doing? Maybe some of your hobbies or your interests can actually be jobs. For example, if you like animals or pets like myself, maybe a good part-time job would be working at a pet store. So trying to think of some of those things more critically to get yourself on a path to what kind of jobs you might want to apply to. The second piece of this is really about researching the market. So this is where you'd ask, do I understand the job goal in the industry that I'm pursuing? Especially right now with some of the different pandemic measures that we're facing, what industries are doing well? Is an essential service something I feel comfortable with? And is that something that I'd like to do part-time? And do I know the prospects of the particular job or area that I'm looking for a job in? And the last thing within this step is identifying targets and setting goals, right? We want to create ourselves a plan so that we can stay on target, we know what we're doing, and we can move forward effectively. So based on the information I've collected, can I now identify some job titles or some options? And do I know, what is my timeline for this? How long do I want to be searching for a job for? What can I do in order to make that goal come true?
So tip number 2, once you've gathered all of this information, we now want to do more research into what kind of potential employers are out there that would be a good fit for you. So finding out where you want to work and then why you want to work there. So our next question to you, if you want to put into the chat, does everybody have an idea of what kind of companies that they might want to work for? So yes or no, put in the chat. Okay, so I see yes to an extent. Okay, so you have like a few ideas maybe. Yes, government, yeah, government work. I think so, okay. Oh, we've got some more government and architecture firm. Okay, so we've got some ideas. That's great. And some of those are a good first step into like deep diving more into finding specific organizations. Interior design. Okay, good. So it sounds like some of you have already started this process, which is really good. Financial industry. So how do I do this? So first step is trying to create a list of target employers. So coming up with a list of about 10 to 20 companies that you might potentially be interested in working for. So making sure that you're considering all types of organizations. So whether they're private, whether they're government, if they're small, medium, large, considering what would be a good workplace for you and making that list. Once you have the list, then doing even more research on these companies. So what do their values look like? What is their work culture? Do they have accessible hiring practices? What does their hiring process look like? What are their services? What kind of customers do they serve? What are the job requirements? Do they need a specific degree or a years of experience? Are there specific skills that you have that they're looking for? So doing all this research to really understand what the companies are about and if they would align with what you are looking for. And to find these opportunities, you can simply use Google. So just Googling companies. You can also use business directories. So things like the LinkedIn company directory, Yellow Pages, the professional book of lists through the Ottawa Business Journal, or simply by checking out professional associations. So if there's a specific industry that you're interested in, looking up organizations related to that industry through the professional association.
The third tip about, how to get job ready is really about tailoring your resume and your cover letter. This is a big one because as you move towards your career, you're going to learn that, each job is going to require a certain amount of customization on your part. So this is good practice while you're looking for a part-time job. So think of your resume as a marketing tool and imagine yourself as the product that you're marketing. So just to get a quick glimpse of what you guys are already doing, in the chat, again, just a yes or no response. Do you customize your resume for each job you apply to? Okay, a little yes, a little no, a little bit sometimes. So this one, we're a little bit more all over the map. Okay, some people are changing little things like the job title. Perfect. So let's take a look at why this is really important. So two things, it's really important, right? Because each time you apply to a job, when an employer sees your resume, they're looking for keywords, they're looking for industry language to see, exactly what you've done that's going to relate to the positions you're applying to. So it's really good if you have those experiences or those skills that they're looking for to be able to make that really obvious, right? We know that lots of people are applying for these jobs that may have similar levels of experience or skills. We want to make sure that we stand out when we're trying to apply to the jobs that we're really interested in. So how do you do this? You use those keywords and the language from the job posting right in your cover letter and your resume. So you show that clear match between the job you're applying to and the skills that you have. You research your program learning outcomes. So if you haven't done this, on your program website, you can actually look at the learning outcomes that you're gaining as you complete your program. And you can, as you complete those, add those to your resume, paraphrase them and add those to your resume. Another thing you can do to really stand out from the rest of your competition is use what we call accomplishment statements, which are really about measuring what your success has been in some of your previous experiences. So this could mean using things like metrics or strong action verbs to demonstrate your value. Did you increase something for the better? Did you decrease something for the better? How many people did you help? Did you write a number of reports? So it's really about quantifying that experience and being able to show an employer the types of things that you've achieved or accomplished in some of your work. And Jess and I are more than happy to sit down with you and brainstorm about that because we know that sometimes that can be a little bit more challenging. And then of course, paying attention to the details. You want to make sure that the product that you're submitting is a quality product, whether that be a good format for your resume, ensuring that spelling and grammar have no mistakes, and making sure that overall your document is aesthetically pleasing. Those are the things that you need to be aware of when you're trying to customize and tailor your resume and cover letter. So let's take a quick look at what parts that might look like. So here you'll see just a sample, an image of a resume. You'll notice that it is what we're looking at. It's well formatted, right? It looks nice. The font sizes match. It's all aligned properly. Its bullet points are indented evenly. It has defined subheadings, right? So you can see, you're starting to see that it looks really nice. It's something that somebody would be happy to review. The second thing there is that if you really look into this, we're going to see keywords. So for this person's industry, which is office administration, there are keywords that are already embedded that we can assume were in the job posting. So you start to see things like organization or communication skills, coordination, data entry, lots of different good snippets in there. And then if we look further down, we're going to see that this person has taken the time to highlight some accomplishments. So it goes past this onto the second page, but you'll see here a highlighted accomplishment, for example, could be exceeding sales targets by 15% or meeting objectives set by management. So it just gives you a sense of the things that you can include to ensure that you're submitting a quality resume. If you're looking for more strategies or you want more of a structured template, you'll see on the bottom of this slide that there is a template found on our website, which we can put in the chat as well.
So tip number 4 is to diversify your job search method. And so what I mean by diversify is to not just use conventional methods of job searching, so online job boards. Typically, whenever you're looking for a position, you want to use a variety of methods because employers will hire through a variety of methods. So using both online and then networking is a good way to find the most opportunities. So before we get into some different strategies, I'm curious to see what kind of job search methods you guys have used in the past to help you get jobs. So in the chat box, let us know. So job portals, word of mouth, references, online again, hoping to build a network. That's good. Glad to hear. Any other methods? Mostly online portals. Directly through websites. Good, good. So I'm glad that there's like a variety out there. Let's deep dive into a few more. So like I mentioned earlier, just using online job boards is not the best way to find out about the most opportunities. So this quote is taken from payscale.com, and it's that at least 70%, if not 80% of jobs are not published. So they're not posted online. And yet most people are spending 70 or 80% of their time surfing the net versus getting out there, talking to employers, taking chances, and realizing that the vast majority of hiring is friends and acquaintances, hiring other trusted friends and acquaintances. So the bulk of opportunities are actually not online. They are found through other people, through your network, through networking with others. So whenever we say an online strategy, some resources that are helpful is of course Hire AC, so our specific job board for students and graduates. Some other common job boards might be Indeed, Charity Village, the Job Bank website, the government job search sites. But like we mentioned earlier, doing that research and going directly to company websites is the best way to find out if a company is hiring. LinkedIn is also a really great tool for finding opportunities as well as for networking. And finally, professional association websites list employers, and often they also list job postings. In terms of networking, there are so many strategies that you can use. But first, it's actually starting with the professional and personal network that you already have. So connecting with your friends and family, letting them know what you're doing, what you're looking for, and oftentimes they will be able to refer you to other opportunities that they've heard of. Outside of that, attending different events and connecting with new people. So either through networking fairs, networking events, employer sessions, all events that we actually host throughout the year. Conducting information interviews. So this is where you actually reach out to somebody in an industry you're interested in and asking them questions about how they got to where they are, what kind of advice they'd have for somebody in the field, what kind of things to include on your resume. So it's kind of getting that inside scoop from somebody who's already in the field and has some knowledge. Cold contacting is another way. So just directly reaching out to a company to see if they're hiring or sending in an application if there's any potential opportunities. Using social media websites like LinkedIn, which is a really great resource because you can look up almost any company on LinkedIn and see who works there. So you can find people who are in positions you're interested in, or you can find recruiters that you can connect with. And then finally, we always build up our network through the different kinds of jobs and opportunities that we've taken advantage of. So by participating in applied research, co-op, different forms of work integrated learning, or even volunteering in your field, all of these are really great ways to build up your network and make contacts that can potentially help you along your career journey.
And the last tip that we're going to talk about today is really about mastering your interview skills. So we all know that, preparation is essential when it means we're trying to be more successful. So it's the same thing that goes for your interviews. Your research, your practice will definitely show an interview committee, your initiative, not only that, but also your interest and your motivation for the job. So it's really important to spend some time preparing for your interviews. Does anyone know by chance what the STAR technique stands for? So it's an acronym, S.T.A.R. Does anybody know what this stands for? You can say yes or no, or you can take a guess in the chat. If you think you know what it means, feel free to pop it into the chat there. Nice. Well done, Steve. Excellent. All right. Great. So a few no's, a few yeses, and Steve let us know, Stephanie let us know what that stands for. And that's really one of the techniques that's going to be so beneficial for you, which we're going to talk about during the interview. So we've broken this down into a couple of tips before the interview, during the interview, and after the interview. Before the interview, a few main things. So confirm the details. Sounds very simple, but it is very necessary, especially now that we're in a virtual world. So picking out things like what softwares are going to be used for your video interviews and things like that can be really important to make sure you have the right details. Before the interview, you want to review the job description so that you can target your answers to the things that they're looking for, right, in the posting. So for example, if they're asking, what are your strengths? And in their posting, they've indicated they're looking for someone with good communication skills, and you have good communication skills, you might want to consider emphasizing that as one of your strengths. Also, researching the position in the company. Almost half of the candidates that you interview against won't actually do research about the company before their interview. So you can out-compete someone on that question if you take the time to research the company and identify the reason why you want to work for them. Of course, preparing and rehearsing. So whether that be writing out your answers ahead of time, saying them out loud, doing a mock interview with us or with someone you trust can be really helpful to see what your body language is, how you're articulating questions, if you feel confident about your answers. And of course, to adapt to the pandemic world, setting up your space and your technology. So ensuring that you are using the platform or you've downloaded the correct platform, making sure your technology is tested, your mic is working, your lighting is good, all of those types of things to ensure that you're as prepared as you can be before the interview. During the interview, it's really about making that good first impression. We know that oftentimes, in less than 90 seconds, employers are making a judgment about you based on their first impression. So what can you do to make sure that the first impression you're giving is good? Some of that is about your body language. So, even through a computer screen, we can tell if your posture is good, if you're smiling, if you're making eye contact by looking directly into your camera. All of these little things add up to that first impression. And throughout your answers, ensuring that you maintain a positive attitude. So if a question is asked about conflict, you want to make sure not to focus necessarily on the negative, but what the positive outcome was of a situation that may have started more difficult or more challenging. And as you know, the STAR technique is very important. So thanks to Steve and Stephanie for showing us what that is: situation, task, action, result. This is a formula or a technique that we would actually suggest that you use when answering your interview questions to ensure that you provide a really full, complete answer. A lot of people will spend time talking just about the situation or just about the result, but we don't know what happened in between. Sometimes we don't even know the whole story. So when an employer is asking for a concrete example, for example, they say, "Tell me about a time when you had a difficult customer." They are looking for an actual, very specific example, and this is an example when you would apply the STAR technique for any question where they ask you to provide an example. So you would talk about the situation, what happened, the task in that situation, what were you responsible for, the actions, so how you navigated that situation, what did you do in order to get to a result, and what was that result. So you want to kind of clarify each of those steps so that an employer can see how you navigated that. And the reason that they want you to use, a strategy or a formula like this is because then they can see, based on this example that you're giving, what actions and what response you would take if you had a similar situation working for them as a new employer. Lastly, after the interview, you would want to send a timely thank you letter. So within the first 24 hours of that interview, thanking them for the opportunity to have been interviewed, their time, reiterating your interest in the position, or providing any additional information you might think is important. And lastly, after the interview, you also want to reflect on your answers. What did I do well on? What was difficult for me to answer? Can I identify what those questions were that were more difficult and maybe research a little bit about how I can answer them better in the future? Maybe they asked examples that you couldn't find an example for, taking the time to brainstorm about those so you're more prepared going into your next interview is great. And always remembering, of course, that any interview, whether you get the job or not, is worth celebrating because it's one step closer to getting that position. And here is just the STAR technique stated for you. So very helpful in what we call behavioral interview questions, which are example-based questions, starting usually with tell me about a time when, describe a situation where, a circumstance, that sort of thing. So you describe the situation, explain the tasks you had to complete, describe the actions, and close with the result of your efforts, preferably positive result. Awesome. So book an appointment with us and get started today. If you're looking for more support, we can really help you with all of these career readiness aspects that we've talked about today. We can help you develop your goal and help you in editing and reviewing and revising and improving your resume and cover letter. We can provide you advice on job search, on networking. We can look at what job search strategy you've used, and if you haven't been effective, what things you can do differently or change. And we can, of course, assist just overall in helping you to increase your self-marketing skills through your interview skills, but also through your LinkedIn profile and other ways that you can get involved depending on your industry. So those are some really important things we want you to kind of walk away with, and booking an appointment with us is a great place to get started. All right, so what are your next steps? Does anybody have any ideas or want to share in the chat? You know, what are you looking for? Do you think you're going to book an appointment or you're going to start researching companies? Let us know in the chat what you think where you're going to start with all of this today. Stephanie asked do you give advice for mature students that have been in the workforce for years? Absolutely. See lots of mature students or students returning for a new program or a second career, or people who have changed their paths. We're happy to give advice to everyone and anyone. Awesome. So I'm seeing people are interested in booking an appointment, starting to build their networks, researching some companies. While we're chatting here, I'm just going to pop into the chat a link. So if you're interested in booking a virtual appointment, you can get more information on this page on our website here. We can go to the next slide, Jess. So thank you so much for attending. I'm going to just give some closing remarks. Before I do that, I would like to also remind you that we can stay connected through our LinkedIn page. That's probably the easiest and the best resource to stay connected to what the Employment Support Center is doing, what we're offering, job search tips, government application campaigns, events and recruitment sessions that we're offering through our center. So that's in the chat there. I would encourage you to join our LinkedIn page today so you can be aware of all of that information. And then lastly, awesome. So we just want to thank you so much for joining us this morning. We will open it up to some questions now. We have a few minutes. So is there any other questions that anybody wanted to ask?
There's a couple in the Q&A box.
Perfect.
So Jagreedy would like to know if cold calling is considered unprofessional in Canada.
It's a great question.
That's a good question. Go ahead, Lindsay.
I would say anything can be considered unprofessional if you're doing it unprofessionally, but as a strategy for a job search, it isn't considered unprofessional. It's a normal way to job search. You might have the experience that you may do some cold calling and you might not receive feedback, or you might not get a response or an answer. That's okay. That's like any other method. Same thing happens when we apply to jobs online. It's just an opportunity for us to do something different that might generate a response that our other methods haven't generated. So as long as you're ensuring that the contact you're making, that when you call someone and you articulate the reason why you're calling in a professional way, then it is considered just as professional as any other method of job searching. I see someone asking, how do we set up an appointment? So if you want to just refer to the chat, we've placed in there how you can book a virtual appointment with us. And just to reiterate verbally, we do book our appointments through the Welcome Center. So if you're familiar with the Welcome Center, you can email them at welcomecenter@algonquincollege.com, or you can call the main number, extension 7200. I see Sorens has asked, I'm an architect with 3 years of experience from India. Do I have a chance to getting into an architectural firm? Of course, we would love to sit down with you and chat about, what your experiences have been. But it's always great to bring international experience to Canada and build on your education that you're also getting here. So yeah, of course, if you're developing education here and you already have experience, that's great. That puts you in a position that makes you marketable. And, we would love to meet with you one-on-one to discuss that in more detail, but I think you definitely have a chance of working in architecture if that's your background and that's what you're studying here. That's a great question. So I see we have a question from a YouTube viewer. When I take an online interview, what should I pay attention to? So one of the things is, again, body language, very important, just as it would be in an in-person interview. But it's a little bit different because they can't see your whole body, right? So just ensuring that your posture is good, that you're staring straight into your camera, because that gives the illusion of eye contact versus when you're staring directly at your screen, depending on where your view is. So that's a good strategy. And of course, just making sure all your technology is set up accordingly, that you've tested it out, maybe even tried it out with someone beforehand so that there are no errors or things that are happening that might create problems during your interview. Jess, anything else to add there?
I think you covered it. Maybe just making sure that you're not in an area with a lot of distractions. So you probably don't have a lot of things behind you, like pets, animals, children, roommates popping in on you. So just being aware of the time frame that you'll be in an interview and letting everybody know, so that you're not distracted.
Good lighting is nice too, because the more that they can see you, the more that it replicates that face-to-face experience they would be having in person. But most of the same strategies apply from a physical interview to a virtual interview. So ensuring that you've made sure everything is set up correctly, but also asking your questions if you have them. If I do have, sometimes people say, well, what if there's a connection error, or the call drops, or they can't understand me? So in those cases, be transparent with your interviewer. Let them know that maybe your connection is unstable. Perhaps there's an opportunity for you both to communicate about a possible solution. So maybe rescheduling, or you rescheduling to a time and then using, going somewhere to use the internet at the school or something that's a bit more reliable. So those are good strategies to think of as well.
There's another question in the Q&A box. So because of COVID-19, there's been an increase in job scams. How do I identify a legitimate job? So I'll start that one off. There are a number of things that could come up that might make a job sound too good to be true. And usually it is. So if they're offering you money up front, if they are offering you a position without interviewing you beforehand, if they're providing a large pay scale for something that typically isn't paid that well, it's typically too good to be true, or a fraudulent position. Some other things might be that they're asking you for personal information before going through the jobs process of interviewing you or offering you a position. So you never want to provide any like personal details, including your SIN number, your banking information, your date of birth. Any of those identifiers should not be provided until the end of the job process. So if they're asking you for that information up front, it's typically fraudulent. If there isn't like a website associated with it, if you just see it on Indeed and there isn't really any other company information, that's usually a red flag. Do you have any other ones, Lindsay?
I think that sums it up pretty nicely. You know, if there isn't a lot of information, that should be, you know, something to question at the very forefront of applying to a job. So, or if it's like a website, but it was created, you know, a month ago, I'm just getting familiar with some of that pre-research, I think will be helpful in making you more confident about whether or not you feel like it's a legitimate position. And then, yeah, refraining from offering any personal information. That's a great question. Thank you for that. Any other questions? Okay, great. Give it a couple more seconds there. Perfect. I just wanted to note about the question about what you should pay attention to in the virtual interviews. Stephanie added, you know, think about what your physical background implies about you in virtual interviews, which I think is a great point and very interesting. You know, if there is a lot of stuff behind you, if it's very chaotic, not only could that be distracting, but yeah, you want to give, again, a professional impression to an employer. So ensuring that the space that is being seen in your camera, it represents you professionally. And if you can't really control for that, you can always use a virtual background as well. Great point.
We got another question in the Q&A box. What are some of the questions to ask after an interview if the interviewer asks you if you have any questions?
Great. That's great. Yeah, you always, so even if they don't ask you if you have any questions, it's a great practice to have some prepared and just say, ask them if it's okay if you can ask your questions. I would say like 3 or 4 questions is appropriate, just because we want to be conscious of their time, but we also want to show our enthusiasm and our interest in the position. So being able to show that you've done your effort, your research, you want to know more is really going to be able to convey that by asking questions at the end of the interview. So what are some good questions? I think it's always a good thing to ask about, as a new employee, what will the expectations be for me in this role over the first 3 months? Or even asking something about, what does a typical day look like in this position? And certainly things about next steps. So what is the next step in the interview process, or when should I expect to hear back? Because that will give me information on when I can follow up with the employer. Any other question examples you want to provide, Jess?
I would say if you can tailor your questions to the specific position, like the more tailored they are, the better. So if you've done research on the company and you've noticed something, and you ask them a question about it, it just shows that much further how interested you are in the position. Some other questions might be like, how is success measured in the role? I've heard of people asking the interviewers what they most enjoy about working in the company, asking them about the company culture, or what the team looks like, asking about orientation or training, ways to be successful in the role. lots of questions.
And on our resource mentioned earlier, the AC Career Platform, there's actually a list of interview questions that you can ask an interviewer if you have an interview. So if you wanted to look at that resource as a guide for you, not only for what questions you can ask, but it also goes through, you know, what are the common questions that interviewers ask you and how can you prepare for them? So it gives you some sample answers as well, which can be really helpful. And that was from the career platform, which I will copy into the chat again. Awesome.
So another question about upcoming workshops, like resume writing and interview preparation. Are they recorded? That's a good question. So typically the presentations that, so I host a number of presentation or workshops that are tailored to international students. So typically these aren't recorded, although I do provide the slides afterwards. Any workshops we do through AC Hub or AC Connected, like today's workshop, are typically recorded for viewing afterwards. You have anything to add, Lindsay?
No, yeah, typically we don't record workshops. Most of the what we call workshops are done through requests through the faculty members. So we go into a lot of different programs and classrooms. So many of you will see us through your different levels coming in to talk about something or other. But we're very available for one-to-one appointments, which is probably even more beneficial for you. So you're welcome to book an appointment at any time you see fit to discuss those individual topics. Okay, so I'm just mindful of the time here. We have about 2 more minutes. So I'd like to thank you all for joining us this morning. I really appreciate the questions that were posed. Very, very important, very, you know, topical things that we need to understand and know more about. So I thank you for your participation there. If you are interested in joining another virtual AC Day 1 session today, please reference the AC Day 1 magazine that was emailed to you and select the activities that interest you and your work with your schedule. And thank you again, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.